Judge Caprio experienced the most shocking moment of his career. The man who had been the city's most trusted doctor for 15 years stood up in the courtroom and screamed, "I never studied medicine." At that moment, everyone in the room froze. How could this man, who had performed over 3,000 surgeries and saved thousands of lives, be a fake doctor? It was a routine Tuesday afternoon at 2:30 p.m. at Providence Municipal Court. Judge Frank Caprio was shuffling through files, unaware of how extraordinary that day's final case would turn out to be. Dr. Harrison Mitchell called his secretary speeding violation. The man who walked through the door was one of the city's most renowned heart surgeons. At 52, gray-haired, and always smiling, Dr. Mitchell was recognized by everyone in the courtroom. This man had saved dozens of lives in the city over the past 15 years. "Dr. Mitchell," said Judge Caprio with a warm smile, "it's unfortunate to see you here." "What happened, Your Honor? I apologize. I was rushing to an emergency surgery and exceeded the speed limit. I was going 85 miles per hour in a 65 miles per hour zone. I have no excuse, and I'm ready to pay my fine." Everyone in the courtroom respected this honesty. Typical Dr. Mitchell, but always honest, always responsible. "Doctor, I understand you were in an emergency situation," said Caprio. "But safety is paramount. Still, we thank you for saving lives." As routine procedure required, the secretary extended the fingerprint scanner to Dr. Mitchell. "Routine process. Doctor, we need to update our system." Dr. Mitchell hesitated for a moment, a very small hesitation. But Judge Caprio's experienced eyes caught it. "Is there a problem, Doctor?" No. "Of course not." Mitchell placed his hand on the scanner. The system began processing. While waiting for results, Caprio continued chatting with Dr. Mitchell. "How are things at the hospital? I heard you've developed a new heart surgery technique." "Yes, Your Honor. Minimally invasive technique. Patients recover much faster." That's when the system emitted a loud alarm. Beep, beep, beep. The secretary looked at the screen and frowned. "Your Honor, the system seems to be giving an error." "What kind of error?" "The fingerprint doesn't match. The system doesn't recognize this person." The courtroom suddenly fell silent. Dr. Mitchell's face went pale. "What do you mean it doesn't recognize him?" asked Caprio. "I mean, these fingerprints aren't registered in any database. Not in medical school records, not in hospital personnel systems, not in state licensing records." Dr. Mitchell's hands began to tremble. "It must be a system error. I've been practicing medicine in this city for 15 years, but Judge Caprio was now on alert. His 40 years of experience told him something wasn't right with the man in front of him. "Dr. Mitchell, please sit down. Let's resolve this situation." He turned to his secretary, Susan. "Susan, please pull up Dr. Mitchell's hospital records. Also, let's find his medical school diploma." "Your Honor, this is unnecessary," said Mitchell, his voice now shaky. "It's just a simple system error. Doctor, we just want to be sure." "Thank you for your understanding." Susan began researching on the computer. The initial findings were very strange. "Your Honor, Dr. Mitchell's hospital records only go back 15 years. Nothing before that. Meaning there's no record of this man existing before 15 years ago. No birth certificate, no school records, no previous work experience." The courtroom had become completely silent. Other people in the courtroom were beginning to realize the seriousness of the situation. Dr. Mitchell stood up. His face was drenched in sweat. "I want to leave." "Dr. Mitchell, please sit down," said Caprio, his voice now stern. "You need to answer these questions. Which university did you graduate from?" Mitchell remained silent. "Who issued your medical license?" Silence again. "Dr. Mitchell, please speak." That's when Dr. Harrison Mitchell's 15-year masquerade collapsed. He covered his face with his hands and began sobbing. "I never studied medicine." The courtroom practically exploded. People stood up, shouting began. Caprio banged his gavel. "Quiet, everyone stay calm." Dr. Mitchell, or whatever his real name was still crying. "What do you mean you never studied medicine?" asked Caprio, his voice a mixture of shock and anger. I was a paramedic in the military. During the Vietnam War, but there were so many wounded, not enough doctors. I was forced to, I learned but this this is impossible. You performed thousands of surgeries. I know, Mitchell screamed, but I really saved people. I never killed anyone. Caprio took a deep breath. He had never encountered such a situation before. Is your name really Harrison Mitchell? A long silence, then, almost in a whisper, no. What is your real name? Robert Thompson. And what happened 15 years ago? How did you become a doctor? Robert Thompson, we would now call him by his real name, began telling his story. 15 years ago, I was homeless, Thompson began. After returning from Vietnam, my life was ruined. PTSD, alcohol, drugs, I was living on the streets. One day, there was a traffic accident in this city. Bad accident. Dr. Harrison Mitchell, the real Dr. Mitchell, was going to the hospital in an ambulance, but he died at the scene. The courtroom held its breath. I was there. I saw it first. I took his bag, his ID, his diplomas. Why? I don't know. Maybe survival instinct, Caprio's face showed a mixture of seriousness, shock, and disappointment. And then, I applied to the hospital using the real Dr. Mitchell's identity. The system wasn't as advanced back then as it is today. I prepared fake documents. I used my medical experience from the military. But how did you perform complex surgeries? Thompson's eyes lit up. I learned. Every night, after surgery, I read medical books. I watched videos on the internet. I observed other doctors. For 15 years, I never stopped learning, and you never made mistakes. A long silence. In the beginning, there were a few close calls. But I was lucky, and I really worked hard. I never lost a patient. Judge Caprio put his head in his hands. The situation was shaking his moral values. Mr. Thompson, you put thousands of people's lives at risk. I know, Your Honor, but I also saved them. Do you remember Sarah Jenkins? The 8-year-old girl, heart surgery. That was my first major operation. She's now 23, studying at university. Caprio remembered. Sarah Jenkins was the sweet little girl from their neighborhood. What about Marcus Williams, 45 years old, had a heart attack? Nobody believed he would survive. I saved him. Now he's playing with his grandchildren. Thompson stood up, beginning to speak passionately. I saved the lives of 3,247 people in the city, Your Honor. I saved their families, their children, their futures. Yes, I committed diploma fraud, but I didn't kill any of them. The courtroom was in chaos. Some were shouting murderer, while others were defending him, saying he saved my life. Caprio was thinking, legally, Thompson had committed a major crime. But morally, the situation was very complex. Your Honor, came a voice from the back of the courtroom. An elderly woman had stood up. Yes, ma'am. I'm Margaret Sullivan. Dr. Mitchell, Mr. Thompson, performed my husband's heart surgery 2 years ago. Tom is now 78 years old, still gardening. Without this man, Tom would have died. Another voice, me too. Dr. Mitchell saved my 5-year-old son's life. And another, my mother. The courtroom had split into 2 camps. Those supporting Thompson and those angry at him. Caprio banged his gavel. Quiet, everyone stay calm. Thompson continued crying. I just wanted to help. I didn't want people to die. But Mr. Thompson, said Caprio, you deceived people. You abused their trust. I know, and I'm sorry for that. But look at the results. How many people are alive now? How many families are happy? Just then, the courtroom door opened and a uniformed police officer entered. Your Honor, I apologize, but there's an emergency. The police officer handed Caprio a file. Your Honor, there's urgent information about Dr. Mitchell, Thompson. Caprio opened the file and glanced through it. His expression changed. Mr. Thompson, according to this file, you're not just a fake doctor. You're also wanted for armed robbery from 20 years ago. The courtroom erupted again. Thompson collapsed. That was a different person. I'm not that man anymore. 20 years ago, you robbed a pharmacy in Detroit. You injured an elderly pharmacist. I was a drug addict. I was desperate. But I didn't kill anyone. Caprio continued reading the file. Then you stole drugs from a military hospital, double quotes. For people living on the streets, they were sick too. They were suffering too. And after the real Dr. Mitchell's death, you also used his bank accounts. Thompson fell silent. This last accusation had completely collapsed his defense. Mr. Thompson, said Caprio, his voice now cold. You're not just a fake doctor, you're a long-term con artist. Thompson had collapsed in the courtroom chair. His 15-year mask had now completely fallen. Your Honor, I am not a bad man. Yes, I made mistakes, big mistakes, but I changed during these 15 years. How did you change? Every surgery, every life I saved, showed me who the real Thompson was. I began to become Dr. Mitchell, not just with a fake identity, but in spirit too. Caprio was thinking, this was a complex case. Legally, Thompson was guilty, but morally, Mr. Thompson, I'm going to ask you this question. Have you committed any crimes in these 15 years? No, Your Honor, never. Have you used alcohol or drugs? No, I've been clean for 16 years. Did you overcharge your patients? Thompson shook his head. Quite the opposite. I never took money from poor patients. I used the money I took from wealthy ones to treat them. This last answer surprised Caprio. What do you mean? Your Honor, I was like a Robin Hood doctor. I would charge normal fees to my wealthy patients and treat the poor ones for free. I performed surgery on over 800 people in this city for free. This explanation had affected the courtroom audience. Murmurs began. Is this true? Asked Caprio. A voice came from the back of the courtroom. Yes. He operated on my uncle for free. Another voice. Me too. I had no insurance. Dr. Mitchell did the surgery without payment. And another, my daughter too. Caprio was genuinely in turmoil. Thompson had technically committed major crimes, but at the same time had saved thousands of lives. Mr. Thompson, let me put this situation to public judgment. He turned to the courtroom. Citizens listening to this case, what do you think about Dr. Mitchell? I mean, Mr. Thompson. Hands went up. Margaret Sullivan spoke first. Your Honor, this man saved my husband's life. Yes, he did wrong in the past, but people can change. He has changed. A young man stood up. I'm James, 25 years old. When I was 10, Dr. Mitchell performed my heart surgery. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be here now. To me, he's a hero. But another voice objected. He's a fraud. What if he had made a mistake during surgery? What if someone had died? He was just lucky. The courtroom was split into supporters and opponents. Judge Caprio had never encountered such a situation in his 40-year career. In front of him was a man who had technically committed major crimes, but had also saved thousands of lives. Mr. Thompson, one last question for you. Are you sorry? Thompson raised his head, his eyes teary but determined. Your Honor, I'm sorry for using a fake identity. I'm sorry for deceiving people. I'm sorry for my past crimes, but double quotes he paused. But I'm not sorry for saving these 3,247 people's lives. I'm not sorry that their children didn't lose their fathers and mothers. I'm not sorry for performing free surgery on 800 people in this city. The courtroom had fallen silent. If time went back, would you do it again? A long silence. Thompson was thinking, Your Honor, to be honest, yes, but I would do it differently this time. I would go to medical school immediately. I would get real education. But I wouldn't let those people die. Caprio stood up. Making this decision was very difficult. Mr. Thompson, legally you have committed major crimes. Fake identity, diploma fraud, unlicensed medical practice, past crimes, Thompson bowed his head. But at the same time, you saved thousands of people's lives in these 15 years. You provided great service to society. The courtroom held its breath. This case is not just legal but moral. And in my 40 years of judging people, I look not only at their crimes, but also at their character. Caprio paused. Mr. Thompson, I'm referring you to state court. But at the same time, I'm also announcing our official recommendation as this court double quotes everyone was waiting. This court recommends that Mr. Thompson be punished for his past crimes, but also that his service to society be considered. We recommend community service. 6 months later, Robert Thompson received a 5-year prison sentence in state court, but the sentence was suspended. Instead, he was given 10 years of community service. He would complete this service by working as a nurse's aide in state hospitals. Additionally, despite being 45 years old, he enrolled in medical school. He began receiving real medical education. This case caused major debates in Providence and throughout America. It became known as the fake doctor case. Years later, Judge Caprio said this about the case: "Sometimes justice is not just applying laws. Sometimes it's also looking at a person's character, change, and remorse." Thompson was technically guilty, but morally it was complex. Thompson received his real medical diploma 7 years later. He became a real doctor at age 52. He's still doing community service and is one of his patients' favorite doctors. And interestingly, he never lost a patient. Not when he was a fake doctor, and not after becoming a real doctor. Sarah Jenkins, that 8-year-old girl whose heart surgery was his first, is now 28 years old and trying to become a doctor herself. She considers Thompson her inspiration. This case showed that human nature and the concept of justice are sometimes much more complex than laws. And sometimes, goodness coming from the most unexpected places can change society.